over this past week, I was having a conversation um, with a woman who knew a bit about yoga, but was curious and asking questions in this. And it just kind of slipped out of my mouth. I said, well, the popular or common perception of yoga, hello, welcome, is that, there's asana, like people can get their head around asana. And then over on the other end of the spectrum, there's enlightenment, right? Like we associate that with yoga as well. And then look at these two options, asana, enlightenment. And well, let's say, enlightenment, that's kind of out of the question. That happens to other people or mystical people or this. But I think I can hone in on asana, right? And then the sum total of yoga comes this asana uh, point. And between these two, if we're to say that, over here you have like material bodily types of practices, and here we have some kind of supreme realization, something along those lines. There's a lot of territory between these 2 points that are also accounted for in the yogic view and in the yogic practice, that we can have some skill in the liminal space. The space is in between, not just between these two kind of polar examples, but in our decision-making process and in our relationship process and our ability to kind of tune into something like awe or wonder or appreciation, or to adjust what I like to call adjust our aperture. So the ability to zoom out in a situation, or the ability to zoom in, right? In fact, Patanjali lists those in the Buddhipada as they're in the context of kind of paranormal abilities, but there's also a kind of relative version of that as well, right? Just the ability to let me take 3 steps back in this situation, or let me draw closer, right? As a skill, say, within your nervous system, within your perception, within your awareness. So those kinds of abilities, call them cities, abilities are are part of the liminal space, the space between. And as we inquire or look into the principle of Om, we find that it covers this whole spectrum as well. It covers all this territory or terrain. So in the supreme presentation of Om, it could sound something like, it's the sound of the universe, or cosmic reverberation, something like that, that really kind of grand and mystical. And if you check into your own experience, like, where's I'm not perceiving the totality, So that's nonetheless, the proposition is made and the potential is there. And so in their practices and ways of kind of unpacking that further, and we'll dabble around with that as well today. But Om can also be, again, I find that these teachings are scalable. Like there's the macro version, and then there's like the micro and relative and utility grades of the same teaching, right? So it can be a big scale or it can be a smaller scale. And with Om, if you, one sort of rendering or presentation is to say that each of those 3 sounds, A, U, M, are indicative of 3 primal energies. The energy of initiation, beginning, coming into being. This class, for example, is just getting off the ground. We're in the A phase of our whole yoga inquiry tonight. There's a beginning. And then uh, the name for that could be Brahma, God of creation. And you is indicative of preservation. So once we get a little altitude here, once we kind of get started, and we'll kind of humming along for a bit, right? That's you, Vishnu, preservation. And then come 7 o'clock or a few minutes past, the German entourage hot down the stairs, ready to occupy this space. They're getting ready they're eager for their A phase as we enter our M phase, disillusion, like that. And the M kind of rings up through your upper palate. You can take it out like that, take the sound out like that. So home, creation, preservation, and disillusion, like that, all indicated. And there's a fourth sound, simply called Turiya, which means the fourth, like that. And I love how it's so nondescript. Like there's no real word for it. It has a language of its own. It's the fourth. And what fourth ways we can relate to fourth is just the ensuing silence. All right, the silence or the kind of reverberation or that palpable sense of mystical that can be sensed and after the invocation of the Om cycle, like that. So this is true not only of the arc of this class, but it's also true of your lifespan as well, right? Like there's a phase when we're getting more cells than losing, right? Ah, hello, Brahman. And then, we kind of cruise along at a certain altitude in the life experience, and then start noticing these little cell guys are a little less around. And then a whole cycle like that. Not to mention the cosmic cycle, this whole universe. In fact, it's described that there's Brahm, opening his eyes like this, and whole universe comes into existence. And then closes his eyes, and the whole universe dissolves just like that. And that's just one day. That's one of Brahm's days. And then Brahm lives for 100 years, like that, universe into existence, universe out of existence, universe coming, universe going. So like you add all those up and you get 365 of those, that's 1 year, and then 100 of those, and then that Brahm expires and a new Brahm comes, and you feel the timelessness and all that. Like, how do you even our lifetime just a small blip. It's infinite all. Right, you put it all again. Turiya, here we go, all back once again.